Welcome to 12 Rows Back. We bring you footy from the fans' perspective. We've done it. We got through the first round, first week. 9 games over the course of, counting them in my head, 5 days. There was a lot of footy to take in. Well done to any of those who watched the majority of all games. I put my hand up and I did pretty well. What'd you make of it, Tom? How are you sitting after 1 week of glorious football?
Yeah, look, loved having it back despite my team's result. But I'll tell you what I am loving is the feedback from our uni grades episode. My word, did that start up some debate. We've had plenty of feedback on that, which we love. A few supporter groups unhappy with a bit of grilling. They're our grades, so just we're not going to change them. They're what we put out there, but we love the feedback, so keep it coming. And for the teams that I smashed, because I think I put my neck out a little bit more than you, Seb, it's going to keep happening because I love doing the grades and love grading teams as they deserve. So, no, it was awesome, mate. I can't wait for round 2.
Yeah, so round 2 starts Thursday night. Carlton versus the Bulldogs. Walsh in, Chera out, COVID protocols.
Yeah.
Voss out, Hansen in. The Blues a chance, sneaky.
Oh, very much a sneaky chance. I mean, we haven't heard anything about the Bulldogs players for the past week. It's all been about coaching.
Come out today, Baslenka out. This will be the first game he's missed since he debuted.
Jeez, that's a fair out actually. That might swing it because it's a midfield battle really. So that's where it's going to be won and lost in this game. So that hurts the Dogs. He's a big out.
Yeah. Imagine if the Blues win this one. Like, call the season off. The flag's theirs.
Yeah, I know. I can't imagine it. The lid was off when they beat the Tigers, who came 13th. Imagine beating a runner-up.
Mate, the lid was off when they beat Melbourne in the preseason.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, I've been there though. I've been there. You got to. No, they should. Now this would be huge if they could get this upset. It's gettable. It's not outside the realms. It's an upset.
They played them well last year, and they weren't sort of well drilled and well coached, and so every chance. Hey, before we get stuck into the good stuff, and for me that's the MRO spoilers. Do you need to issue an apology to our loyal Collingwood faithful?
Look, I apologise for speaking too long about your football club. I think I gave them way too much airtime in the grades, and I'll be looking to keep it shorter going forward. That's a guarantee.
So can I clarify, if the Saints lose by more, will these get longer? Or is it just that's Saints-centric? Because
oh, look, I just listen to the fans. That's just what the fans have been asking for. So
I do have to say, we put some polls out on Instagram, and we're going to get to these a little bit later, but I know there was one about whether the Saints will make the 8, and it didn't feel like a straw poll of AFL fans. It felt like a straw poll of Saints members who some blind faith and the others honest or just can't bring themselves to believe as they've been burnt.
Look, that's probably fair, and we love seeing the Saints support the polls there. I got plenty of feedback about the Hornet appearing in some of our social media material and perhaps not earning it. So our club's cop it, but we're going to keep mentioning them, Seb. That's a fact of this show, I think.
Who said he hadn't earned it?
I'm not going to...
He was fantastic on the weekend.
I believe we got some feedback on that one. I think it was Hayes, Martin, and Hornet, and a couple weren't happy that he was in that ilk. I mean, he had a pretty good start. Wasn't probably as good as Big Hazy or even Nick Martin, who somehow got the rising star nod. Riccelli's bloody stiff. Like I'm still shaking my head. Yes, he had 27, but
whoever didn't get that was stiff, because they both kicked 5 goals on debut. You know, they're up there with the realm of Kent Kingsley, who kicked 6 on debut.
Did he get a rising star? No, look, yeah, I'm with you. They probably a time. Can they give out 2 noms in 1 week? They'll probably never do that. But if there ever was going to be a week, this one was probably it.
Well, to me, it doesn't make sense. You don't really need a nomination. It should just be body of work at the end of the year. You know, like a lot of them are token nominations, aren't they?
Oh, in the back end of the season, I think they're like, geez, we haven't nominated this kid. He probably should be in the running, and he can have a semi-average game and get the nod, but not at the start, I don't reckon. Start of the year.
It just doesn't matter to me. Like, you don't have to be best on ground and be nominated to win the Brownlow. Like, why do you have to do it for the Rising Star? It's
Look,
just a
I'll hold you to this
quirky
because
talking point of our game. And yes, I will go hard when the Hornet gets nominated.
yeah, I was going to say if it's coming to round 17 and he still hasn't been nominated and he has a 2-goal, 12-possession game and gets nominated, I'll remember this moment.
Or please hold me to it. Now, we've already gone on far too long, but
Yeah.
this is the crux of, like, I'm happy to admit I'm driving this topic, but we had Michael Christian still hasn't retired or taken any ounce of interest in what's going on in the footy world. He just sort of sits in his, I imagine it's a dark room and just makes random decisions, or he just throws darts at a board and then that's how he picks out his punishments. But we had Rory Sloane at the tribunal, we had Willie Rioli at the tribunal appealing their suspensions, and Mitch Robinson at the tribunal appealing his suspension. So triple header tribunal Tuesday, I think it was being referred to.
Jeez.
I made that up, but I really should be in the media somewhere.
Nah, fair.
Sloane got off, down to a fine. It was raked his eyes, they were alleging. And then there was no real video evidence. And he just sort of said, I've had trouble all my career with my eyes. Like, I wouldn't do it. It looks bad, but I didn't do it. He got the good...
that defence worked.
Look, they're cliff notes, all right? He was much better presented, but
okay, fair.
They're sort of cliff notes, and Sloaney got off on the good bloke syndrome, I think. He's a good bloke. We'll let him off.
He has a good record too, yeah.
Mitch Robinson's suspension upheld, and that's the he's a thug.
Opposite.
Route.
He's been here before.
The action was looked at, and then Willie Rioli. Now this incident, Tom, and I'm gonna flick to the footage.
This is the new age we're in. 12 rows back.
Sorry, listeners, you won't get to see the footage, but we're just gonna have it playing while we talk about it. So here, Isaac Rankin kicks it straight over Matty Rao's head, and it lands in the middle of the two players, and they both have eyes for the ball. Matty Rao gets there first. No one's contesting that. Split-second decision. And Rioli goes to mark, then Fizzy's going to bump and then turns and hits him. Now, Rao got straight up, so good news for Willie. And he copped what did he cop? He copped a week or 2 weeks?
He copped a week.
Copped
1 week off the top.
Took it to tribunal, got off. Now, some of the defences they were using were pretty crazy. They were sort of saying, like, we got there at the same time. He was trying to mark, which that's the defence. He had eyes for the ball, was trying to mark. I think whichever side of the coin you fall on there is where the side of the coin of the suspension you fall on. But they claimed he didn't hit him high, which I thought, no, there's been high contact there. Like, the level of it,
we can see
maybe more of the force was to the chest than the head, but he's hit him in the head. And they also likened it to Nick Riewoldt mark.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to say.
And I'm thinking, come on, that was a stretch.
Well, that's a long bow. Anything to bring up that, but one of the most courageous marks ever. But this was not similar to that. Well, I guess in the fact that there was one player off his feet. So where are you sitting on it, Seb? Are you telling me, are you happy that it was withdrawn and he's free to play this week? Or are you saying that 1 week was fair and it should have stood up?
So if we believe the AFL and what they've said all year, that they want to protect the head, protect the players, and the head is sacrosanct, this should have gotten 2 weeks. At least.
2 weeks?
Yep, at least. If that's what the AFL believes and that's what they want. As a footy fan, supporter, and observer, I see, and you break it down and watch this footage, right? It's kicked over Matty Rao's head, so you got to run. He runs back with the flight, and Willie goes at the ball. Willie Rioli's got a split second to go for the ball, and he's got a chance to impact the play, intercept, and take a mark. At what point do you realise, I'm not quick enough to quite get there? He's going to get there first, right? So he's got to weigh this up. Then he's got to weigh up. Like, Matty Rao didn't jump for the ball. Most of the time when you go for a mark, you jump. But he's running back with the flight. So Willie's jumped up, partly to protect himself, partly to mark it. And then it's all just happened so quickly. He's turned his body and there's been a collision. Eyes were for the ball initially. Split second towards the end. He protects himself as he's entitled to do. He contested the ball. He didn't line him up and think he's going to nail him. What I
Well,
hate... Sorry.
no, I was going to say if he really could have actually lined him up, and he would have hurt him actually more by staying on the ground and just running through him. So, look, I've jumped in here, but I've got no issue with this. I think it wasn't even a free kick at the time. It was play on, which is fair. If you really freeze it, you can actually see that before it even looks like it's within the realms of being a Matty Rowell hardball, Rioli was already off his feet. So he'd already made the call to jump for it, go for it. You could split second there, but he'd already made that decision. So he's actually in the air at the time that Rowell finally claims it. What are you going to do when you're in mid-air? You protect yourself, and that's what he did. So I actually had no issues with it.
Yeah, so as far as that goes in a footy action, I don't take issue with what he did and where he ended up and everything else. The thing that's starting to bug me is the duty of care. And Willie said he just wanted to impact the play and win the ball for his team. And I heard someone, I can't remember who it was, say, well, look, the players now have to understand there's a duty of care to the other players. And, Rioli used the words, I want to win the ball at all costs. And they said, well, that can't be the reason you want to win. It can't be at all cost. Can't be at the cost of another player's.
Jeez, that's semantics, isn't it? Jeez.
Well, it is, but the way I see it is that Matty Rowell's got a duty of care to not run back into the unknown. Right?
That could be argued, yeah.
Because if he gets there a split second late, he's getting cleaned up too. And there's no case to argue for. Like, he did mark it. So, the player who kicks the ball has a duty of care.
How far are you stretching this?
Well, think about it. If you kick it over a player's head and the player has to run back, it's a hospital hand pass. You're putting them in danger.
I would love to see, imagine seeing players get suspended for hospital balls. There'd be a few careers over.
I'm not saying getting suspended for it. I'm just saying he's created the situation where Willie's a chance to go and get it, and they've both run at the footy. The duty of care is on the players, not the single player who gets to the ball a split second late. That's what I really dislike. But
the other angle on this is, if Willie doesn't go for this and he just stays on the ground and looks like he hasn't given two hoots about getting the ball, we'll absolutely rip him to shreds for not going hard enough. So we're going to rip him because he's gone hard and sort of impacted a player. In another example, I guess, of the split-second decision being repeated ad nauseum at slow motion and actually taking out of what it was at the time, which was, a split-second decision. He was in midair. So, I like seeing it thrown out. And I'll give a clip on the way out to the AFL who said, we didn't like it, but we're not going to appeal it. This competition has just set up, and this goes for actual umpiring as well, they have just set up rules so that there are that many grey areas. So basically, they've set it up so that they can never be wrong on any issue. And that bugs me, Seb.
No, you're 100% right. So if Rioli pulled out of that contest, he's called soft. And there's footage of Rory Lobb pulling out of a contest in Adelaide because he would have cleaned the player up coming back with the flight of the ball, and he got criticism from Matty Lloyd. So the players can't win. All the AFL has to do is make a ruling on the action, and that stops it, and that stops the argument. But they won't. They keep using outcome. This one was successfully... I think this was successfully argued that it shouldn't be a suspension because on all logic he's contested the ball and it's ended in an unfortunate incident, but we're playing a contact sport.
That is a good point too, because we've sort of changed the rules around, not the sliding in rule, and if you dive on it and claim it but get caught, it's holding the ball. So we don't want to see too many of these, I guess, 50-50 balls up for grabs, and we're actually encouraging players not to go for the ball because they're worried about what's going to happen if they actually get it. That's against sort of the logic of our sport, to be honest. So I don't like seeing that creep into the game. So I'm happy this got off based on that. I get, we don't want players head injuries and that angle, but I mean,
you can't ask the players to go against their instincts of getting
exactly.
That's
Ainsworth
ludicrous.
Ainsworth was also involved in that. If he comes in any timing, he could have impacted it too. He could have tunneled Rioli and he could have landed on his neck. That's split second stuff.
Yeah, and Rioli has to weigh it up. Like if it's not Matty Rowell, if it's a faster player or a slower player, he's got to. You can't weigh all that up in a split second of a game. You're playing footy. You see the ball, you run at it. You're a split second late. Like these are not. This is not me playing thirds footy. Like I've got plenty of time to decide before I get to the ball. This is like these
I've seen you get air like that.
They're fast, and it's just ludicrous to me. So a couple other things I want to touch on. To the Peanuts, comparing it to the Maynard suspension. Maynard swung with a roundhouse fist and knocked the player out. Willie's a split second late. They're not the same.
Yep.
To the Peanuts over in the West, I can't believe I'm saying this.
Well, hold on. The Peanuts out in the West. This is rich coming from you. You have defended this state, not unlike Mark McGowan. You're the patron saint of this state on this show. So yeah, hit me with this.
There's not an AFL bias against West Coast for the initial suspension. It's just that's a one.
Okay, well that clip's again, well deserved. That's fair.
I'll use the word peanut. I've gotten used to using it as a dad because it's a real nice way to be offensive but PG with the kids around. So that's peanut, Michael Christian, will just do whatever he wants. He didn't pick Rioli because he's a West Coast player. So don't. There's plenty of Vic bias, but it's more the media, not the AFL and the MRO. Well, the AFL with the fixturing, but one battle at a time. But here's where I actually land on it, Tom. I don't care whether he did or didn't get suspended and how long he got or whatever the case may be. Next time this happens, same outcome, please.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all we want. Same outcome. Everyone's happy.
Look, that's all we're asking for, and it seems to be outside the realms of what actually happens. But every year we hope it goes down that way. And look, there's a precedent now in 2022. Let's see it upheld. I'm with you.
Yeah, that is honestly that's all I want. And I found it in terms of the tribunal, the whole system makes no sense because you've got the AFL. And then you've got an independent MRO who takes directive from the AFL.
Independent's loosely used there.
And you've got the AFL tribunal who you have an AFL QC on and who the head of the tribunal used to be the AFL's chief prosecutor for a number of years. And then if the AFL still don't like it, they can go through the appeals board, which is another commission or committee put together by the AFL. Why don't the AFL just rule on it all? And just, like, if the clubs absolutely hated it, go, like, imagine that. The AFL just said, no, it's a 2-week suspension. Like, this is a directive from the AFL or Brad Scott's lackey, for, lack of a better term. West Coast don't like it. They request a review and each club votes on it. And you need like a 2/3 majority or something for it to be overturned. Like, why not do something simpler than, we're going to announce we now announce our findings a bit earlier, but we still can't sit the tribunal till Tuesday, even though players don't fly in anymore. And then we'll sit the tribunal or have back to back to back, but we'll just sort of make it up as we go. But then the AFL might still appeal it on the Wednesday, and it might be Thursday, like with Toby Green last year. It's still Thursday before a final, and we don't know if he's playing or not. Like, the system's got to be better than that in 2022.
I fully agree with that. Like, you know me, this is not my favourite topic, but you're talking complete sense, which is something the AFL ain't. So I'm with you on that.
Something you don't do very often for a second.
No, I'm with you. I'm seriously with you. We're just calling for some sort of consistency and just common sense going forward, really. Like you say, verdicts could be handed down. I mean, you get a feel, dare I say, in the industry of what certain things should be. I think that'd be a better situation than we're in now, to be honest.
Yeah, and look, you might say, like, unfortunate for West Coast and Willie Rioli, but he's the example and he's going to get rubbed out. But do that and then be consistent across the league. Like, that's the suspension. Now he's got off. I don't want to see another one suspended by Christian that then gets to the tribunal. Like, just definitely. Don't waste our time with it. I'd much rather them just be consistent, and then we don't have these endless debates. We can talk about the players who played well and the good patches of footy. We can make fun of the Saints, like endless topics we can talk about.
Nah, look, yeah, completely fair. As I said, you are talking complete sense. AFL House, please listen to this podcast. You will learn plenty. I like it, Seb. As I said, not my favourite topic, but that was a good way to go through it. I'm with you.
Yeah. Moving on, I
That,
could do MRO or MRP or the lottery system all day. We just want to give a shout out to a few people who have supported us and bought a little bit of merch, whether it be a little key ring, stubby holder, or a combo T-shirt, polo. There's
some
a few
great stuff in
options.
there. Oh, yeah.
But just a shout out to Shem, Matthew, Sam, Ryan, Michael. Well, there's you there, Tom. You've bought one.
Yeah, no, can't wait for that.
Liam, Aiden, Daniela, Lisa, and another Michael C, if you will.
Nice.
We massively appreciate the support. Like it's huge to know that people out there listen and support and help us out, and that money's actually going to go towards something to sort of build the podcast up. You can see we're doing video. We got a few other ideas in the bank, but it's massively appreciated.
No, absolutely, Seb. And if you need any, promo for the polos, Seb seems to wear them every show, and I'm loving it. I don't think I've done a podcast with you this year without one of the polos on, and I like it.
Wore it to the MCG on Sunday.
That's just getting the brand out there. That's what we want to see. And you can join in to our viewers, listeners. Just jump on the website, message one of us, message the Instagram, Facebook, 12rowsback@gmail.com. We will get you that merch. It's fantastic stuff.
Absolutely. So you put this together. You asked the fans.
Yeah. So speaking of
questions.
So speaking of just new ideas, just thought I'd try something out. Really interested in the polls you can put up on an Instagram. So thought I'd have a bit of fun, put a couple of questions out to our fan base and just see what they thought. Yes, there might have been some bias in the questions I chose, but it's just what we wanted to hear. So I'll go through it. So first question I asked was, are the D's a premiership favourites? And just to qualify, we had a huge amount of answers here, so it wasn't just me and Seb just chewing the fat and just picking something for fun. We had a wide spectrum of people actually contributing to these polls, so we love seeing that.
Yeah, I can break the fourth wall here, and if you ever see a poll up and it's either a pro North or pro Saints, and there's 100% of the votes one way, it means we've put it up and then gone in and put the first vote in. That's what it means.
Is that what happened when you went in, Seb, and they suddenly all turned 50-50? I got in early and you jumped in second. Now we had a lot of uptake on this. So I asked the first question: are the D's premiership favourites? We got 76% yes, 24% no.
Geez, those 24% of people are kidding themselves.
Yeah, I know. There could be some counter. I asked biasly: are the Saints finals bound? We got 47% yes, 53% no. A little caveat on this one: I know that the majority of my family voted, so that might have slightly swung that one, but basically a 50-50 call.
Do they believe the Saints are finals bound, or are they trying to convince themselves that the Saints are finals bound?
Well, look, the question just asked, are they finals bound? So there's probably more than a sprinkling of hope. It might be a main ingredient in that one. But
well, look, I'll put my hand up. I love to make fun of the Saints because I know there's a few listeners there who dislike my making fun of the Saints, and I know there's some others who enjoy me putting you through some hot water, but I do know of a gentleman who had a $500 bet on the Hornet into North to win the flag, and I think the payout was some obscene, like it was
that'd be
70 or 80 grand or something. No,
that was not yourself.
No, it wasn't me. I only put 10.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, there's always some blind faith in supporter groups. It just showed there's a fair Saints contingency in our listener base.
Yep, which is why they'll keep getting mentioned. But send your mailbags through. Speaking of another group that we love to bring up on this show, I asked the Bombers' loss was cause for concern or only a round one loss. We actually got 39% for the concern, 61% only 1% loss. So there might be a few Bombers fans doing a bit of the same, Seb.
No, well, I was going to say that's smart because it is not cause for concern. Geelong were up and firing, missing Stringer, like I think I gave him a fair grade on the weekend, Tom. But hey, they got Brisbane
Splinters.
and Melbourne in the next 2 weeks. Zipping 3 could be huge cause for concern.
Yeah, we'll learn plenty about him. The next one, and this was one after your own heart. The debut of the Hornet was either meh or the fire emoji. We got 53% for the meh, so
Mm.
and 47% for the fire. Just a poll, obviously, of our listeners there, but they were split on that one. Now, obviously, you thought he'd have 30 and kick 5. He had 12 and kicked 1, but yeah, you unhappy seeing that, or
No,
just
hey,
waiting to see some people prove wrong?
that was the level I expected. I didn't think any debutant this weekend was going to kick 5, and we had 2. That was sort of a little bit unheard of, but certainly not disappointed, worried, or anything else. He kicked a goal. He was going toe to toe with Tom Mitchell. Probably could have had a second one if they just kicked it to him a little better. And I saw him in and out of stoppages. Yeah, I was doing that thing. I'm at the game. I'm watching him. I'm not watching the ball. Not watching any other players. I'm watching the Hornet, and yeah, he's a star.
No, I like it. You'll get a lot more joy out of the Roos this year doing that. The last question was crowds in round 1 were either lower than I thought or impressive given COVID. Impressive given COVID came out the winner here, 62% versus 38 for lower than I expected. So, yep, the media was harsh on the crowds, but I think our listening base got it right there. It was pretty impressive given COVID. So I'm happy with that and happy with those polls. So we'll keep bringing those back, I reckon, Seb, for a little midweeker for our listeners and viewers.
Absolutely. And you got to think with the crowds. I don't know the exact figure, so do not crucify me, but it's something like 19% of people are not double vaxxed, meaning they can't attend the games. So
I
that's
didn't know that. There you go.
that's 1 in 5 just can't attend. So that's got to have some impact somewhere on the numbers. And it's not a should they or shouldn't they. It's not that debate, but it's if you've
Just
normally you got 25 million to pick from, now you only got 20, and there's a level of concern about. I know people who would. I know someone getting married on Friday, and they'd always go to the footy this weekend, but they stayed well away because they don't want to have
yeah.
that day ruined. And there's people have lives outside of it. So yeah, the crowd numbers were great, and it was great to be back.
No, I like it, Seb. So yeah, they're the polls. As I said, they'll be back, and we'll mix up the questions and mix up the teams. If you want your team in there, let us know. We can make that happen. But we'll keep the variety in there.
I was going to
Maybe
say,
a little.
unless it's Collingwood.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with that. We have asked for many a mailbag over the course of this show's history. This might be a PB week. The mailbox is jam full. We have that many to get through. It might take up this back half of the show. So I don't even know where you want to begin, Seb. Are there any that jumped out to you immediately that you want to get into?
Well, we didn't quite have time to run one in our build up and predictions episode because we sort of had to go through 18 teams and then give ladders and predictions and all that sort of stuff. So there's a slight backlog, but we've got a couple here from. Well, I guess we'll call him Steve because that's the name on the email. Tom,
Yeah.
don't know how these work. I'm really trying not to channel my inner Sam Newman, like from the mailbag. That was
down the lens.
Quality viewing. Where should we start here? What do you think it takes to be a successful coach? What's the difference between a Clarkson or a Mitchell or a Malthouse or a Buckley?
Yeah, ripper question, this one. For me, I guess the first thing is your just ability to manage individuals. So, yeah, team sport, and you obviously have to have that team camaraderie coming together. But as a coach, I think you need to have that relationship with each player as an individual, know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, put it all together and work out what makes your team function and play to those strengths. So that's firstly the key one for me. And I think the second is just industry knowledge. So understanding where the game's been, where it's going, where your team's at and what it can do with where the game's going and play to that. So you sort of see the Clarksons and the Malthouses that are at that level where that's like second nature to them, and they can just get players to perform just purely based off that knowledge. You know, as an example, Clarko last year, they probably won 3 games just because he knew how to read the teams he was playing and what he needed to do to get his team there. Obviously, yeah, and he can motivate individuals to come together as a team and perform in those ones. So that's probably pretty key for me, I reckon, Seb, in a great coach.
Yeah, they're key. My big one is being able to teach,
Yep.
because the players who come in, even if they've only just played junior footy and they're coming in as 18-year-olds, they watched 90% of them. They've watched a lot of footy. They play footy. They know how to play footy. They don't know how to play within the AFL. So you got to teach them training and lifestyle and habits, and then you got to teach them how to move the ball and how we do this and how we do that at your club. And it's a matter of often the players who come out and perform well in their first year are quick learners or have great teachers or a combo of both, and they're able to get the message across and that sort of thing. So, like Clarkson, Malthouse, they stand out as they've had a lot of assistant coaches who have gone on to bigger things. I mean, Clarkson's got Dimmer, Bevo, Simpson. Who else has come off his staff to be a premiership coach? There's another one.
No, I think you've got they're the premiership winning ones there.
Treble anyway, and there's Ratton who went there after his stint at Carlton. Brendan Bolton, we won't go there. But Malthouse had the same. Malthouse didn't have as many premiership coaches, but had senior coaches come from his assistants in the wing. Even Paul Roos, premiership coach at Sydney. Ross Lyon learnt under Paul Roos. Obviously had success at a level of success at St Kilda and Freo, and trained my man Sybil Simon into premiership winning coach. So the ability to teach and communicate is just massively underrated. It's not about bringing in player X who was a club legend who knows footy inside out. They can't just come in and coach, and I think we've seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just is in why coaches need a second crack, Seb. I think, you're just passing up on a lot of knowledge of the role. Like, we've said with Simple Simon, I mean, he's got Mark Williams and, who's premiership level. Alan Richardson's there too. He's not obviously at that level, but it's just knowledge of the game, of the industry, of the sport. It's second to none. So I hope they get more of a second crack. We kind of steered on that question late, but that was a ripper.
Yeah, and the second crack thing will be interesting. We'll see how Voss goes at Carlton, because I think he's learned a lot doing 7 or 8 years as an assistant at Port Adelaide. Like, that's a fair... He knows what the coaching gig takes, and now he's done an apprenticeship. So I'm keen to see how they come out. Steve, I love that these came through in separate emails, and they could have just been one, but we're just going to hit them. With the new strict umpire protection rules, I wouldn't call them protection, but the abuse. Should there be an equivalent tribunal for poor umpiring performances? Surely they should be held accountable in some form.
Yeah, look.
Can I field this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Nah, don't waste your time. Umpires are going to umpire. They get reviewed weekly, and they sit down and everyone goes through their decisions. We don't need a tribunal, or we don't need any of that to be made public, because it's not made public about the players' review. Unless an umpire starts belting a bloke or cleaning them up, then that's a different story. But we put far too much emphasis on the umpires and their decisions, and not the rules that make the decisions tricky. And it's much easier for the fans to go, instead of blaming player X for making a dumb choice, they go and blame the umpire for calling a 50-50 against them. Because I've seen it. There's an account on Twitter has stuffed up.
Oh, is there really? Jeez.
Yeah, it's this person who claims to be an AFL level accredited umpire, didn't umpire at the level, but must have trained up and knows someone who did.
Jeez, that is rich.
And he reviews games, and his mentions are equally 50-50 just about every game of both supporters of both teams thinking they got the raw end of the stick. And it's just goes to show, it's very hard to take the emotion out of a game and believe it's going... Not believe it's going, but review them properly. So I think that sort of thing would just be a waste of time, money and effort, aside from the negative sort of appearance of it.
Yeah. Well, that's the angle. I'm just against it based on that. I mean, we want more umpires, not less. I don't think it makes the job. It's not an appealing job. It's you've got to be a certain type to be an ump, and basically, the tribunal we have spoken about it, but you are in the limelight and you are hung out to dry. Well, we don't want to do that to our umps. They cop it enough. I think it's just a bit unnecessary. They'll review it. If an ump is having a shocker a couple of weeks in a row, they do get dropped. But we want to keep the umpires coming through. So, yeah, look, an idea, but we'll pass on that one here at 12 rows back.
Yep, we're in agreement. A lot of agreeing tonight, Tom. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well,
Last
hit me
one.
with this.
Last
Yep.
one from Steve, and then we'll move on to the other members of our mailbox. Who's going to be better, Raoul or the Hornet?
Yeah, look, we might disagree on this one. I think you're going to say the Hornet. I'm going to say Matty Rowell, just purely on what I've seen so far. Look, it is hard to judge the Hornet when we've seen him play one game, so I do feel harsh picking Rowell over him. But Rowley's put the runs on the board. He has got all the, you know, attributes that you want to see in an up and coming star. That just, I guess, making sure he gets out on the park week in, week out. He has had a few of his injury niggles, but he's just a smart operator and a smart footballer with high intelligence. So, yeah, I feel wrong saying. I mean, they're a tough comparison because they don't really play the same position right now. I mean, it might be a better question to ask in a few years. I know I'm sounding like a certain recruiter we had on a few years back, but the Hornet's starting his career right now as a half forward, really, who could potentially pinch hit in a midfield. I'm going to pick a 30 possession on ball, a Brownlow medal vote getting star over that. So, yeah, biased and a tough one, and they're not related, but I'll go with Rao.
So you're picking Raoul?
Yep, after all that.
Interesting. Tom, what's the best ability in a footballer?
Oh, geez, where do you start with that?
You don't have to answer that. The best ability is availability. Number of games Jason Horne-Francis has missed since he debuted? 0.
Oh, you're pulling that out
Number
as
of
the
games
go.
Matty Rowell's missed since he debuted? About 403. If you can't stay healthy, what good are you to me?
Yeah, look, so you're going to give... Well, look, I'll throw you one. I do think the Hornet has a higher ceiling than Rowley.
So you don't think Rowley could be a 2-time Brownlow medalist?
This is hard because you've really got your Roos hat on real tight. But look, he could be not Dustin Martin-esque, but he could be 25 possessions, 2 goals a week, every week, Hornet. That's what I see as his ceiling. Rowley, I mean, we're sort of seeing it now, 30 possession, a couple of goals every now and then from him. So, yeah, maybe I've gone light on the Hornet there, but I think he has got more match winning ability. I think is what I'm trying to get to than Rowell.
You can say all you want, like extremely tough comparison. I'll give you a more serious answer. Extremely tough comparison, given we've seen one game out of an 18-year-old, and we've seen 5 or 6 games of brilliance, and then lots of injuries from Matty Rowell, who must be 21 now, 22. I don't know. I'd have to.
Yeah,
tap into the 12
draft
database. So yeah, look, you'd say the players have more best on ground games than the other one will end up better, but how you can tell now, I don't know. If Matty Rowell stays at the Gold Coast, he's Mr. Irrelevant for his whole career. You can say North are a small club, you can sink the boots in all you want, but we're in Melbourne, we've got no debt, and we're building. So the Hornet is going to explode off the back of that, and I'd expect him to be more of a household name than Matty Rowell in 6 years on the basis of those two things. And that's not really their footballing ability, if I'm being honest, is it?
Nah, not at all. Well, look, I mean, you're going to win most of those battles if you're picking a Victorian club, no matter how small, up against the Suns. But I'll give you that one. What we want to see actually, which would be more relevant, is maybe who is the Hornet meant to be like or play like, and compare their first games. That might be a more apt comparison. I think
you could have put out some research, Tom.
I could have. Oh, well, Rowley's first game was better than the Hornets' first game.
Was it? Who
Yeah,
did they play?
I'm pretty sure they played Freo in round two. I'll have to go to the books on that one off the top, but
Was
I
it
know that
that
he had
memorable,
30.
was it?
Well, he had 30 and
You
kicked
just
two.
know he was best on ground for the first 3 games. That's the
Well, that's a
stat.
hell
No
of a
one actually
start.
remembers the games because he plays for the
Well, that's
Suns.
fair. Well, yeah, you've caught me out, but I'm not the only one there. But yeah, still, that sticks in the memory that he had a hell of a first, 3 quarters of a month over to the Hornet to see what he can do.
Yep. No, we kind of want a full season out of him, so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Little Suns Roos rivalry, I like it.
All right, DJ Broadsword.
Yeah,
Is
look,
this one for me to read out?
yeah, I think you should, and this is one you might need to go back into the inbox because I think he continually updates what he's gone with,
Yeah. Well,
from what I've read.
we got a few messages, and it sort of started out as a challenge for Tom. As an avid, I thought he was a Carlton man to be honest, but as an avid Pies fan, he
Yeah.
felt slightly harshly done by the amount of. Well, actually, this was before the game, but afterwards he's felt harshly done by the amount of Pies talk. But dearest friends at 12 rows back, how about those pies? And I'm unsure if he's referring to Collingwood or the $2 pies that were available.
Yeah, I think that's
across
how
the
I
round.
indulge in the $2 ones. They're
It
good.
gives me the greatest joy to send this email after a Collingwood win. I'm shocked and surprised to hear that Tom doesn't have access to KO, and I'd like to propose a deal. As long as the Saints are outside the 8, I'll pay for Tom's KO subscription. My reasoning for this is I'd like to ensure that every terrible Saints game that is played has the necessary viewership and thusly review of one of the podcast hosts. During this time, Tom may only talk about the Saints for no more than 60 seconds. Any Saints-related players or references incur a 5-second penalty. The second that the Saints make the 8, the subscription will be cancelled. Do you accept the conditions of this deal, Tom?
Look, I do like the creativity, but I'm going to go no deal on that one. Just purely because of our extended Saints fan base on here. They haven't tuned into this show over the last 3 years, Seb, to hear me talk about the Saints for 1 minute per ep. That just ain't right to a large section of our viewership, listenership. So I'm not going to do it. I mean, I would probably appreciate the KO hookup this week, given that we're playing Freo at 6:20 on a Sunday, and I don't have KO myself, so I'm trying to work out the best way to catch that game. So look, I might have to take him up on the deal for this round, just purely based on that. But look, I've heard you, Broad, and Broadsword. There's been many an email before that one, chopping and changing what that deal was.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, he sent a few. So look, I'll take your feedback on. If you want more pies, I'm happy to give you maybe a minute 30 instead of a minute. And look, I can't really help the Saints talk. It just comes naturally. So it's like Seb and the Hornet. It's just going to happen this year.
Yeah, well, that's a fair comparison because we ain't going to stop pumping the Hornet on this show. We should point out that as a resident Pies fan, he's starting to peak. He's starting to build up, and he'll peak on Anzac Day, and then you probably won't hear diddly squat from him for the rest of the year because the Pies year will be done. Last but not least, Ned from the Waltz.
Yeah, the famous pub in our group for some reason. I don't know, down in Springvale, the Waltz, I think.
I'm not sure. I think you got to have a record to get in. Here's the question. I've got a few issues with one of the panelists. Now, Seb has never said a good word about the Dons, but I've actually really enjoyed his comments recently. That surprised me because I truly have never said a nice word about them.
Well, it took you putting them in the top 4, I think, to get a nice enough statement for them.
Yeah, it looks like that was wrong too. He made a strong assessment in the preseason. His comments about our round 1 were spot on. It's Tom who needs to pull his head in. The denial of where the Saints are at needs to stop. Top 6 prediction and a loss to Collingwood first up. Season is over, in capitals. Maybe I was supposed to yell that, but I won't do that. There's no game plan, and they're, spelt wrong, best young players, 26, Jack Hayes. Now that's out of the way, on to my question. Probably could have
okay, so that had, okay, yep. So I'll wear that one.
He's just wanted to give you a clip, just like the other listener or viewer, I don't know how they consume us, about the Saints. Little do they know, this probably just encourages it.
I was going to say that we're getting conflicting mailbags here. Do you want more Saints? Well, I'll put that as a question for next week's poll, and we'll see what we get.
You'll get overwhelmingly yes.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
pick
Joe
your market.
Danaher's contract is under investigation by the AFL. Do you
Yep.
think what Brisbane did was brilliant, or was it crossing the line?
Uh, well, yeah, I think we might have touched on this a few weeks back. I'm with it. I am all looks wise, putting that to the side. It was just a little bit of craftsmanship, really, from both clubs to get this deal done and get it done in a way that, yeah, maybe is using some sort of loophole. But as we've seen in many a fantasy comp or super coach comp, if a loophole's there, people will find it and they will use it. So it was there that they've stumbled upon it. It was a good way to get the compo for the Bombers, and that meant they were happy. Lions get the player they want, and they really don't have to. I guess they're paying cash, not paying in picks, but they're happy as well. So it was win-win. The other 16 teams are the teams that lose, so that's why it's getting airtime, I would suggest. But it's there for every club, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with everything Brisbane did and Essendon did. Like, they're the rules in place. Use them. The AFL, they shouldn't be investigating Brisbane. They should be investigating the person who puts together the compensation deals, the herbs and spices. Like,
Yeah, I know.
just get it consistent and don't just make it up based on these factors. Like, I personally think compensation should be done with because you free up that space in your cap to then you go out and get player X. Well, you don't want
Yeah,
player X, you want picks. Well, too bad. It's free agency. It's not compensation agency. Like, that's what they
it
should be
doesn't have a ring
doing.
to it.
It just doesn't add up. They bring in free agency, but then we've got equalisation, this, that, and the other. Um, like they're looking at. I think something's been put to all 18 clubs, and I don't know how widely reported this one is, but we've obviously had the next generation academies. So between that and the father sons, the Dogs have had two top three picks in the last 2 years, despite the fact they've played finals and went to a grand final. Um, and just I think in last year's draft, the NGAs were put back, so they couldn't be taken in the first 40 picks, and now
Yep,
that's been shifted
that's right.
up to they're looking at bringing it back to just the first 20 picks. Um, to be honest, they just need to get rid of all this picks and compo and pick values and all this rubbish and just have an uncompromised draft, an uncompromised free agency. And if clubs want to start nurturing players from when they're 16, 17, 18, well, draft them. We'll sign them, pay them. Like, just
Well, I
keep
mean,
it
it
fair.
it, it is halfway, merging its way back with the old zones that you had basically in the 80s. Every part of Victoria and basically every part of the country's been, you know, raffled up and stitched up and given to different clubs. So I don't know. Do you go back to that? Can't quite keep it as equal doing that. Obviously, that brings back the old paper bag days, a la the Blues. So we don't want to go to that. But I do want to see an uncompromised draft because yeah, I mean, you try and even follow the draft, and it is a mess. Once those sort of compo picks and there's bids and there's picks moving, and they're not moving because they're being traded; they're just moving just because of this formula. So, look, it is confusing. It is hard when you have rules like a father son. I love that rule, so I do want to see it
Get
stay.
rid of
But
it.
yeah, look,
Equalisation. That should be the goal. They need equalisation. So all this stuff they keep tinkering with is still always at the end of the day compromised. And if you brought back zones, you'd have, a Gordon Bombay esque rezoning the draft lines to get Banksy over to the Ducks. Like, it'll just happen.
that is just quality from you. Yeah, no, that will happen. I do think the being able to claim your NGA players though is fair. Like if you're putting five to well, I mean some of
Why
them
put
come
it
younger
into
than
them?
16.
Why are you putting time into them? They're
Well,
not
have a
on your
look at some of
list.
the. Well, yeah, but you mean if you're investing the time, shouldn't you get that return on investment? Like
Why are
we're
you
talking about.
investing the time in 15-year-olds? It's a men's competition.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's the ability, it's growing the seed basically. You know, they can turn into like a Heaney as we've seen, and Callum Mills. We do well. It it works, I think, up in the northern states because we do need to attract those younger talent away from a rugby or a soccer, But then, Eddie, swung his ego around and said, "Oh, we want it here in Victoria too." So I think, I don't know. I thought it was actually working really before it came down to Victoria, to be honest. But yeah, I do think that you should have a claim on those players.
So
Yeah, I know. I get your angle that you're
what about
investing in
in
them, but
20 years? Let's say no new clubs come in, and in 20 years, everyone now has players who are of the age to be father and son. Should it then the NGAs be demolished? Because the only reason they were brought in was because all these new clubs didn't have father son, but the traditional clubs did.
is that the way
Maybe not
that
the only
you?
reason, but that's one of the big reasons it was brought in for the Suns and the Giants and that sort of stuff. To they didn't have access to father sons.
Yeah, there you go. But it still goes back onto my point that we bought it down here in Victoria because Eddie basically thought it was unfair. But
Well,
when you
everything's
talk of
unfair for Eddie.
yeah, exactly. But when you talk of equalisation, it doesn't mean I don't see it as every club should have access to this. It should be these northern states struggle. Let's help them out with this, and that brings them up to the level.
Yeah, see, I see equalisation as you, there's no advantages or disadvantages based on where you live or where you play or anything like that. You get the same picks in the draft, you get the same salary cap. It's more expensive to live in Sydney. There's a reason for that. It's better to live in Sydney. You get more business opportunities, more this, more that. Like you got to weigh it up. You can't increase the salary cap in Sydney and decrease it in Adelaide because the house prices change. Like the equalisation just needs to be actual fairness and not measures put in to help everyone to keep everyone happy. And you're just doing this balancing act over every off season based on salary cap. And then Sydney used the cap to sign too many players, so that's gone. But now they need it because they can't retain their players. And like, why is it endlessly complicated?
Well, yeah, it does lean into that. I mean, I was just going to say, I mean, it is that topping and topping, and I just don't think the AFL is really equipped to manage it properly. I don't know if there's been the investment in it that they probably need to get it right. Or I mean, look, they've done a lot of things. I'm not saying that, but I think more is required. Maybe a dedicated person to that. I mean, listeners or viewers, message in if you think that person does exist or who they are and their title. But to me, I think it's undermanaged. So really a hole in the game, but such an influential part of the game too, really. So we need someone on it or managing it.
Yeah, look, it's an evolving space, so who knows where they'll be with those picks and that in 5 years' time. To answer the question, Ned,
Yeah, we went on a tangent there.
well managed by Brisbane. The rules probably need to change because that probably shouldn't be allowed. It's a bad look, but it'd be very interesting if you went back and penalised someone for something they did that was legal at the time, but now they've decided isn't legal. I don't think that's fair in AFL terms or even like a fantasy league. It's just not right.
Yeah, that's just a good way to go out, Seb. That was a brilliant ep. We love the mailbags. Keep them coming. Like we said, you send them in. We will read them out. Usually we won't get the backlog, but there's just so much footy. It's the start of the year.
Stuff
There's info
happening.
flying everywhere. Send them through. We'll get to them. We do read every one of them out. If you're in your car, pull it over and send something through. We will listen to it and read it out.
All right, and very quickly, question without notice. We did this on our Instagram live at halftime of the D's Dogs game, I believe. But our underdog tips,
Oh yeah, good
I'm
call.
pretty sure I got Carlton, and you went with Port, if I'm not mistaken, who were well and truly in it but didn't get up. Am I right in saying that?
No, you are right. I think I did say the Pies might be a sneaky, but I did say that the Saints wouldn't get beat. So I'll cop that one. There's one for you, Broad. The Pies did a number on us there.
Thank you.
So I'll give that one to you for week one, Seb.
It's,
That was a good effort.
it's becoming the Collingwood show here, Tom. Too much
Yeah,
Collingwood.
I'll tell you, too much.
That gives
I'm having a
me the new ball, and I really should have known that coming in. I should have looked this up.
Yep.
Let's not lie. North at 210 versus the Eagles feels a bit short. I'll stick with the Blue Baggers at 230 against the Dogs.
Yeah, you
They'll
don't
win.
mind it.
They'll win. The Dogs won't
Yeah,
kick
that's
goals.
big. I don't mind that one. I looked at that one. I'm going Saturday afternoon. The Dons. I think they can get it done. I look, I'm
Jakey's back.
backflipping on what I said earlier about the Lions, so I think I tipped for the Flag. But early season, Saturday afternoon, Marvel, the Bombers' backs against the wall. It just has all the makings of an upset here, and a win that'll get Bombers fans really up and about and forgetting that shocking round one loss. So I'm gonna trust them this week, and they're my underdog. Dons to beat the Lions, and you can get a juicy 280 for that one, I think.
Fantastic, Tom. I think you're finally in Ned's good books after that little tip. I think that's it from us. Stay safe. Good luck to your team. And Instagram Live halftime on Thursday at 12 Rows Back. Instagram, Twitter, we're all over it. Thank you again for your support, and we will catch you with our next episode being our round 2 grades. And watch out. You wouldn't
Can't
want to
wait.
lose 2 in a row, I'm telling you.